DJ Lagway is finally, officially, a Baylor Bear. But did that drama do more harm than good?
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Fandom and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the world. I'm your host, Cam Stuart of Rogue Media Sports Network. I appreciate you guys making it your first listen today and every day. Shout out to you everydayers out there and to you newbies and to your sometimes dayers. We hope you become an everydayer soon. We are talking DJ Lagway today because the moment has finally come. Finally, DJ Lagway is a Baylor Bear. But is there a downside to that? I'm going to wet blanket this thing. Plus, can Dave Aranda change his identity for people to get more behind him in the community? The Baylor AD had a pretty interesting answer in that. And what Bears do we root for? That'll be an interesting one to round out the show. But we start where we start, and that is with DJ Lagway. Finally, the white smoke has come out of the chapel. He has made a decision, and he is sticking with his commitment to Baylor. The news, official on Sunday afternoon that it is signed, all good. Huzzah, man. Like, huzzah. Okay, because I'm going to put a damper on it in a minute, but let me just start with this. Throughout all of this, like the drama and the saga and everything that came with it, and some people turning on him and some people still thinking he's not very good. I like this. I'm happy that DJ Lagway is the quarterback for Baylor. That might get lost in this message, but it shouldn't. Like, I think this was as good as you could have done at quarterback, and I don't mean that as like a bad thing. Like, oh, well, it's just the best you could have done. Like, that was beyond anybody's expectation for Baylor after a 5-7 season to go out and get a quarterback like this, a name like this, a potential like this. So I think it's great. And, let Baylor Athletics do all their videos and, and graphics and, homecoming and legacy. And like, that is great. Go with God, have fun with it. I am excited for DJ Lagway to be the quarterback for the Baylor Bears. And we're going to talk about like this week, what that means, how that raises Baylor's floor. But I do want to ask a question. And folks, just take your nearest, warmest blanket and run it under the faucet for me. Because I am going to be the wet blanket here. I was thinking about this during the weekend, before he signed, and after he signed. I think it is still a major question. Did that saga, did the drama that came along with this transfer and the things in between, did that do more harm than good? And I think it comes down to this. What Baylor really needs right now, more than just about anything, player-wise, okay? So don't say new coach is what they need the most, because I do understand that. What they need from this crop of transfer portal players is commitment. Like the idea that you are here to build something, that you are going to be all in, that we need to make this better. Because I think back to 2023 when Baylor went 3-9 and Dave Aranda was not fired, and a couple of big names went in the portal. Blake Shapen was one, the tight end. Drake Dabney was another. But for the most part, you kept that roster. And I remember being on this show saying, do you want to keep the roster? You want to keep the entire roster from a team that went 3-9? And I remember doing an episode and saying, if this group does come back, there needs to obviously be improvements, but there needs to be a serious buy-in. And I think that would show a buy-in if those guys come back. And they did, and they had a good season. They were 8-5. They had the 6-game winning streak. And I think Baylor administration saw that as, yeah, that group came back. They trusted in Dave, and they got better. And so that's probably why in that email in late November that Dr. Linda Livingstone put out, it said, player retention. Players love playing for him. We want to keep that here. Baylor needs some of that right now. I don't think the administration can be fooled again if that's the case. I think they still need to move on and get a new coach when that time comes next year. But you need that kind of buy-in here from the guys coming in. And I know he's a legacy, and I know he didn't flip a commitment or anything like that. But it's also quite fair to question a buy-in when it took a week and a half after you committed to sign the paperwork, when it took another visit somewhere else, an SEC team that really needed a quarterback, and we got reports from the two most probably trusted sources in transfer portal news saying, oh yeah, Duke is really interested and there are talks there. When those things happen, you'd be a fool to sit there and blindly say, oh yeah, well, that was never a possibility. DJ wants to be here 1,000%, and he wants to finish his career here and do this, that, and the other. College football is so fluid these days, and it's not just for Baylor, it's for everyone. But when you're in this situation where you are trying to rebuild in the transfer portal for a program that could be a destination program, I think that's fair to say. It's not right now, but it could be. I think what you need more than just about anything is a true buy-in from the players you bring in, not just I'm here until I get a better offer. Literally like committing until I get a better offer. Like that's not what you need here. When DJ Lagway comes to campus, by the way, classes start tomorrow. When DJ Lagway comes to campus and is the quarterback for the Baylor Bears, he needs to be the number one guy in the locker room. Like he has to be. I know he's not a senior, but he's the dang quarterback. If a wide receiver or a left tackle is going on another visit after he commits, it's odd. It's still weird, but you're like, okay, but he did sign here. All right, well, whatever. When it's the quarterback, that's a big deal. That is a big, big deal. And there was all kinds of drama and rumors that came out of this. And I saw it from Baylor fans on my timeline in my comment section saying, we don't need him anymore. We don't want him anymore. I was sitting there on Saturday after the Duke rumor saying, is it time to move on? Do you need to go and get someone else? And so I will end with this, kind of summarizing the whole thing. I'm happy that DJ Lagway is the quarterback. I think that was best case scenario for Baylor. But I don't think it's unfair at all to be asking the question, is there total 100% buy-in for this year and next, his 2 years of eligibility, for the most important player in terms of position on the entire football team? And most important player just in general, I think, DJ Lagway. Like, he's your best player on the roster right now. He and Dawson Pendergrass are the two best skill position players on the roster. So that is a fair question to ask. Is the damage already done? Let me know in the comment section below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Call me a wet blanket if you must. I had to re-record this segment. I did it in the morning on Sunday before going to a football game. So hoping that nothing had changed. It did change. I'm happy that it changed at the end of the day because I think this is good for Baylor. Like in terms of the football aspect, the player, the skill, I think it is good for Baylor. But I do think there's a greater question of, was all of this good for Baylor right now? Anyway, let's ask the next question. This is an episode full of questions today, okay? And this next one is there anything Dave Aranda can change identity-wise, that could start to get people behind him again? Baylor's AD had a pretty interesting answer. We'll go over that next on Locked On Baylor. But today, let's tell you that today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. College football playoff is here. In fact, thank you, FanDuel. The last game of the college football playoff is tonight. Yeah. And FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day, of which, again, there's one left of the playoffs. Right now, tonight, college football playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost just waiting for them in the app. And I love me a profit boost, people, because I'm not that much of a gunslinger when it comes to my FanDuel account. You know, I like to, you can never go broke, making a profit kind of thing. Check down, take what the defense gives you. And sometimes I really like this bet, and I'm like, you know what? I feel really good about this, but I got to spend more money to make not really enough money. It's not worth it for me. But then I apply a profit boost, and we're rolling. Like this is free money. That thing you already liked that wasn't going to give you a lot, profit boost will help you go after even bigger winnings. And when you win, the FanDuel app pays out instantly, which is perfect for something like playoff football tonight, Miami, Indiana. FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your CFP profit boost every game day. Once again, Indiana, Miami, tonight, FanDuel.com. Okay, so this segment is going to annoy a lot of people. It just is. I know you guys in a nice way. I know you guys. And I know it's going to annoy a lot of people, but I find it interesting enough that I still want to talk about it. And it's I'll tell you why it's going to annoy people in a minute. But it comes from an interview that Doug McNamee did on the Matt Mosley show. My old colleague. Well, still colleague, but old boss, Matt Mosley. He was the host. You remember that? Yeah. Anyway, Doug McNamee, Baylor's new athletic director, was on the show. And one of the things Mosley asked about was identity. You know, he was talking about how two departed coaches had such great connections with the community. Those coaches being Art Briles and Kim Mulkey. You know, fiery people. Mulkey was a notoriously tough one to work with, but the community loved her and still loves her. There is a fan base, or a portion of the fan base, for the team formerly known as the Baylor Lady Bears that still worships the ground that Kim Mulkey walks on. You know, she was their hero. And, you know, as tough as she could be at times, as prickly as she could be all the time, she was a big part of the community. I will give her that. I will absolutely give her that. And Art Briles was the same way. Man, like out in the community all the time, you know, doing his run every morning, the long sleeve shirts, everybody coming up to say hi. Like he was a big deal. He bridged a gap between Baylor and Waco, which, as we know, is a constant discussion. How do we bridge that gap? And 10 years ago, you know, the old 2016 challenge going on, there was a pretty great connection between Baylor and Waco. Like truly there was. And that's always a struggle, you know, with diversity and socioeconomics. You know, there's a problem kind of bridging that gap. And Art Briles and Kim Mulkey were probably the two most responsible Baylor people to bridging that gap when it was bridged. And right now it's not. You know, this community, it doesn't connect. And, you know, Scott Drew, sure. But it does not connect with their football program. And it does not connect with the football coach. And so Matt asked Doug, like, what can Dave do? Like, how do you guys establish an identity for Dave, for the program, for the school in some ways, to get more community involvement behind it? And I've listened to the answer a couple of times. Can't play it because it's competition. But Doug just kind of circles the wagons with the answer. You know, he's like, I've had discussions with Dave. We need to talk about an identity and this and that. And I'm just like, what is it? Like, because, you know, Matt asked the question, what is it that can change, that can get fans behind him other than winning? And I think there was a time in Dave Aranda's tenure where, I'm not going to say he didn't have to win. You always have to win. But I think there was a time in Aranda's tenure where he could have built up credit, built up belief in the people, even when they weren't winning or weren't winning at a high level. And I think that time has passed. And I don't think this is a community that is really in on Dave Aranda's personality. And that's probably harsh. I don't want Dave to change his personality. He's a human being. Don't change that. But I just think we've gotten to a point where the losses have piled up, the disappointment has piled up. We're not in on the soft-spoken, quote-unquote, defensive genius maestro type. It's actually kind of simple when you look at these two coaches that the community did vibe with. They were culture builders, they were winners, and they were very, very outspoken and fiery and passionate. And that is what sells. If you're going to be quiet and diminutive, you're going to need to win a lot. See Tom Landry, see Daryl K. Royal. And you can be the nice guy as long as you constantly win and take it personally and beat your rivals and take that personally. See R.C. Slocum. I'm talking about other Texas legends, that you can get behind. And you can be a weird guy, but you've got to be fun. And you've also got to win more than people expect. See Mike Leach. Dave Aranda, personality-wise and record-wise, is not fitting any of these. Any of them. He doesn't even have the get-up like Randy Allen at Highland Park. Just thinking of other great Texas high school coaches or Texas coaches in general. He doesn't have that. And I think if you're Doug McNamee in the Baylor athletic program, which he did talk about this, I'm not saying he didn't. I think you need to more turn your eye towards what is the identity of this football team, because the coach is on borrowed time. And that is a big, big factor when you look at who the next coach is. Are you going to need to hire a personality? Are you going to need to get someone who is outspoken and fiery and passionate and can have some fun? Because I don't know that Eric Morris is that necessarily, but he's a dang good football coach. That's why I wanted him to come here. GJ Kinney, he's young, but is he brash and outspoken? I don't know. And it's not the only thing you should be looking at, but clearly that is something that is a factor at Baylor. And it's something that Baylor needs. You're kind of fishing them out of the doldrums right now. So is that something you need to look for in your next coach? And who has that? You know what I mean? There's plenty of successful coaches who aren't like the Art Briles mold, so to speak. I wouldn't say that Marcus Freeman is that. I wouldn't say that James Franklin is that. Ryan Day is not that. But is that what Baylor needs? That's kind of the question that's been going through my head all weekend. Is that what Baylor needs? They need a guy who can win. And, like I think of, again, Cignetti at Indiana. Is he fully like Art Briles? Not necessarily, but he's got a chip on his shoulder. He knows they're still reputationally the underdog. And he embraces that, and his team clearly embraces that, and his fan base embraces that. And he's kind of a word I can't say on here. He's kind of a Richard sometimes. And that's good. Like, that's fun. When you're winning, you love that. And Dave Aranda's not going to be that, win, lose, or draw. So that is my question, because I know some of you are going to get annoyed. To bring it back, I know some of you are going to get annoyed because you're going to be like, Cam, all he needs to do is win. Then we'll care. And I think that's true, but like, is there still that connection? Is there still that embrace? You know, Art Briles was like a legend in this town. Kim Mulkey was a legend in this town because of personality and win-loss record. You know? So that becomes my question. Do you need that kind of identity? And are you going to get that kind of identity from the next coach? Because I will say, like, when Doug McNamee was working in Baylor Athletics, which was a while ago before this job, he was part of the team that brought in Art Briles. You know, he clearly worked alongside Kim Mulkey, and Scott Drew is a huge proponent of him. So he kind of was there when Baylor had all the right people in place in terms of win-loss. Okay, can argue the other stuff in the comments, but he was there for that. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you need to have a coach that has the personality for you to gel with and to turn this program around? Or do you just need a flat-out winner? Winning is implied, but do you just need a flat-out winner? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm sure none of you will take that as me saying you should have a loser with personality. I'm sure none of you will take it that way. Let me know in the comment section below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and help us on the path towards 5,000 subscribers. Coming up next, what Bears do we root for? Chicago? Baylor? No, not like that. We'll let you know when it's coming up next. But first, it's time to talk about they're back. TurboTax. It's that time of year. I know Ned Flanders was out there New Year's morning. If you know, you know. He's out there doing his taxes. You know, tax season. It doesn't have to take over your life. Usually it does, but it doesn't have to. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off, hand it off to Dawson Pendergrass, and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress work or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, I hate that. You can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person, or you can connect online if you don't have the time for that. They handle everything. W-2s, self-employed forms, everything in between. And they work to get you every deduction possible. It is a huge time saver, and it gives you real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a TurboTax local expert for just $150 all in. I know, it's crazy. $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file it for you last year, you can get that $150 all in. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local, LCAL, to book your appointment today. Once again, that's turbotax.com/local. All right, so this segment's a little different, okay? And I need you guys to do me a favor. Can you do me a favor? You loyal everyday listeners, you don't tell my bosses I'm doing this segment, because they don't like when we talk about pro sports here. But I have another provocative question for you guys. This has been a question Monday, right? So far we've had, is the damage already done? What identity do you want in a new head coach? I give my thoughts. I really want to hear your thoughts. And this one is just a little bit more fun. It's a little bit out there. You don't usually talk about pro sports on this channel, even if it relates to Baylor, because most of you guys just care about what they do at Baylor. But I know, because I know some of you, and I know how Baylor fans operate, I know that some of you guys will do this thing that I'm going to talk about. So I'm texting with a friend yesterday. He is a big Patriots fan, as am I. It's not going to be about me being a Patriots fan, necessarily. So this fan is a big Patriots fan and big Auburn fan. And the news comes across about Bo Nix, and he says, oh, man, am I going to have to root for the Patriots against Auburn legend Jarrett Stidham? Like, he was literally saying that. Like, I don't know, man. I'd have feel soft spot for Jarrett Stidham, played at Auburn, which of course is, I will say, ironic that we're talking about it, the two of us, because of our relationship, Baylor's relationship with Jarrett Stidham. And I just thought, man, really? Because, and obviously, I'm recording this before the Patriots game on Sunday. I'm going to the game, so I'm recording it before. But the result of that game doesn't matter. If they lost, you could troll me in the comments. But like, I was like, really? Because I am also a massive, Baylor fan, like through and through, and a massive Patriots fan. And so I was thinking, I was rooting for the Broncos on Saturday. And so I was like, man, really? Because I was rooting against Terrell Bernard's team, who wasn't playing Terrell, on Saturday. And I'm going to root against Jalen Petrie on Sunday. Like one of my 2 or 3 favorite all-time Baylor Bears of any sport, Jalen Petrie. Like, I'm going to be rooting against him. And I have this fear that he's going to ruin my life. And you're out here telling me, I don't know if I could root for my NFL team in the AFC Championship game if they make it, because the other team's backup quarterback who's going to start, played at Auburn? Really? So that's my question to you guys. Is like, do you still root for, like, do you root for the Baylor players on an NFL team no matter what? Like, I'm guessing that you're probably not going to root for them if they're going against your favorite team, like is the case for me on Sunday. But like, if you're a Cowboys fan, which we have plenty of watching, listening to the podcast every day, appreciate you guys. You guys go through a lot, especially this year. Like, are you watching Patriots Texans and rooting for the other team in Texas because Jalen Petrie's on it? That's kind of my question here. You know, is that how you're going to be? Is that going to be your rooting interest? Would you have hoped for a Texans versus Bills so that way one Baylor player was playing in the Super Bowl? You know, were you rooting for the Chiefs in last year's Super Bowl, even though we're annoyed and we're sick of them? Were you rooting for them because Tyquan Thornton was on the team? Well, my Cowboys fans that I just called for are probably saying, yes, I was rooting for them against the Eagles. Yes. But if you just root for another team, if you root for the Broncos, were you rooting for the Chiefs because Tyquan Thornton was on the team? That's kind of my, and so I asked some of my friends about it, and it was like, yeah, you take the pro team preference. And as much as I am a Baylor fan, like I was obviously a Patriots fan long before. That's how I grew up. So that, to me, it's not a tough decision, even if they were playing, you know, even if they were playing Sawyer Robertson in a playoff game. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty easy. I hope they don't have to play against Josh Cameron very much. I hope he plays for them. But anyway, that's my question to you guys. Is kind of a fun one to take the load off, you know, take the edge off this episode with some tough questions on this Monday. So let me know what you think. How often are you rooting for Bears in the pros? Like, what is the line of demarcation for you? I know some of you don't even have pro sports teams, so you're just kind of pulling and having a soft spot for whichever one has Baylor people on it. Let me know if that's you, or whatever your line in the sand is, in the comments section below. And remember not to tell my bosses about that. They're probably auditing this episode because of Murphy's Law. But let me know in the comment section below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Come at you every weekday morning on YouTube, and then wherever you get your podcasts as well. Thank you guys so much for making it your first listen today and every day, and rolling with the punches with us all the time. And we'll see you tomorrow on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.